All right. At this time, I'd like to call the Planning and Community Development meeting to order on June 7th, 2022. If you'll stand for the invocation and the pledge, please. Dear Heavenly Father, as we come to you tonight, we'd like to thank you for all your many blessings, for allowing us to be here tonight to do the business for the county. We ask that you'd lead, guide, and direct us in all that we say and do. We ask you for safe travels on the way home this afternoon. And it's in your name that we ask these things. Amen. Pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Make a motion to approve.
All right, second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Public comments. Did anyone sign up for public comments? There are none. We'll skip over that and we'll go right to the public hearing and our presentation by our planning director, David Sutterth.
Oh, I don't know if you want me to, I think we talked about this last time, and I think we forgot it again. I just noticed it, I'm sorry, about that conflict of interest statement that we keep meaning to put on the planning agendas.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
Okay.
want to just
All right, I'll
take care
just
of that real
say it.
fast and
Anybody have one? No.
Anybody
Just make
have
sure.
any conflicts? Okay. All right,
sorry, I just.
that's fine. Yep, I got you. And we'll keep moving on. Go ahead. No, nobody had any conflicts.
All right, in your agenda package, you have, we have one request tonight. This request is by Dish Wireless and Diamond Communications. They are requesting to rezone a 100 by 100, 10,000 square foot leasehold area, a portion of a 48-acre parcel owned by Donna J. and John Michael Rich, located on North Old 52 in between Pinnacle and Pilot Mountain. The request is for a 195-foot monopole tower with a 4-foot lightning rod, total height 199 foot. Dish Wireless would be the initial carrier. The applicant's agent is here, Jonathan Yates from Heldon Yates. The tower site identifier is Coon Road. There was a previous site in that area, approved site years ago in the Coon Road area that never got developed. Again, this is in between Coon Road and Pilot Mountain. That gives you a vicinity if you hadn't been over that area. The total tract of this parcel is 48 acres. Mixed use is up and down. 52 from Pinnacle, you've got some commercial development, lots of residential, agricultural development. It's just a very similar to much of Stokes County. The monopole tower will be located within a 60 by 60 enclosed fenced area with a fence height of 8 foot. The applicant has also submitted a landscaping plan showing a proposed planting of foster holly trees along the perimeter of the fence. Total capacity in arrays would be 4. There's always room on these towers for county use if the county requested it. The zoning district would go from residential agricultural to residential agricultural conditional zoning for a wireless telecommunication facility. The site's not located in a flood hazard area or in a watershed area. The access would be a proposed 30-foot access easement off of North Old 52, and it would follow the boundary of a field. On your site pictures there, you can see the field and an address where this would follow that boundary, but would come off of North Old 52. The immediate surrounding land use is primarily agricultural, again with scattered mixed residential development. Issues to consider: increasing telecommunication capabilities throughout the county. The proposed site by Dish Wireless will provide competition in the telecommunication marketing area as well as expanding network capabilities and connections to existing co-location sites. Visual impact, aesthetics on surrounding property, and any of the issues that were brought up by the public information meeting. And you have your minutes in the public information meeting. There really is not much to that as far as comments. One statement about Dish Wireless that was new to me when I got this request. Dish Wireless to me was satellite television. And so Mr. Yates here will give a little more background on how Dish Wireless has come into the wireless telecommunication field. But we also, in conjunction with this, as far as connectivity, we have requests for co-locations for Dish Wireless on existing towers south of this site in the King area. So I did some research. They are expanding their market. They're now going to be a major player, should be in the telecommunication industry. Diamond Towers is an established company out of New Jersey that's been building towers for quite a while. So even though these names are not something we've dealt with in the past here, they are legitimate players in the wireless telecommunication industry. From the staff comments, you'll see that our Jackie Hicks from Carolina Telecommunications Services provided a letter of recommendation. I have read through the book. Mr. Yates will go over through some things in the application process. The proposed site meets the requirements as set forth in Appendix B, wireless telecommunication facilities requirements of the Stokes County zoning ordinance. You have the letter of approval. After my review, I concur with that recommendation. I think this is a good site for the tower. There were visual. It doesn't appear to be affecting anybody from their viewscapes or anything. I had 2 phone calls about it from neighboring properties, and they were just requesting exactly what the conditional zoning process was, and neither of the surrounding property owners had any problems, or they said, well, it wouldn't really affect them. They were hoping that perhaps other carriers may be able to co-locate on it. They weren't familiar, again, with Dish Wireless as a carrier. You see the minutes from the public information meeting held Saturday, February 12th, 2022. And then at the planning board meeting, we had no comments or concerns from any surrounding neighbors or any citizens. The planning board voted unanimously to recommend approval of conditional rezoning request 22-471 RA to RACZ for 199-foot wireless telecommunication tower. The board felt that the request was consistent with the Stokes 2035 comprehensive plan and was a reasonable request. You have the statement, conditional rezoning petition statement of consistency and reasonableness. You can read through that. I have wrote it as a positive. If there was any disagreement with that, we would have to go through and show why it was not consistent or a reasonable request. Again, do you have any questions for me?
What's the schedule for getting it completed, if approved?
Well, Mr. Yates can
gonna
expand
talk
on
about
that, but he expressed at the planning board meeting fairly quickly. The last tower, and Mr. Yates represented the tower up here for General Lawson. Of course, you see it's already constructed. Again, different companies, so I'll let him speak to that.
All right.
Shannon, where's our attorney at?
He doesn't typically attend the planning meeting unless you request him to be here.
All right, so I just happened to see something on here, and I don't want to be perceived as a conflict of interest because of the line of work we're in. So can anybody answer that question? Am I in conflict of interest because there's fencing around it?
Where, like what section are you, like, is it something that you all?
It's saying that it's got an 8-foot tall chain link fence, and I think beforehand some people had said something about anything dealing with fence, only could be a conflict of interest for me. So I just want to get confirmation on that before taking a vote.
Is it, tell me where it says it exactly.
Around the tower.
60 by 60 fence.
Yeah.
I mean, Andy, I wouldn't think so. I mean, it's just
But it's the same, like the solar field, it got perceived as a conflict of interest because there was fence on it afterwards.
Well,
So
we
I
got a
just,
lot of requirements for
Yeah.
fencing. And this
Yeah.
just happens, this is what they propose. Our ordinance requires fencing of sorts, types, so that you're going to find that in a lot of the requirements.
I agree, but I just want to make sure that, you know,
We could, if you want to call Ty, we can, and we can ask him that question if you want to be positive.
if you don't mind, does the board mind?
No, I don't mind.
Well, I think you'd be former commissioner was a real estate agent, any potential, you know, if,
I agree, but
I,
if you've seen the past election, yeah.
And it's like I told him last time I saw him, good thing Facebook wasn't around early in your career as a county commissioner.
Still not one of my afflictions.
I know, right? I like the way you said that. It can be an affliction, for sure.
Well, you have a tower drawing you can look at, and it gives you an indication. This is a fairly standard thing. You know, our ordinance requires it to be monopole towers, so we don't have the guide towers, which really are lighted. The biggest thing here, under 200 foot, FAA doesn't require lighting. Required for it. So these are going up, and of course, our communications is important. I think that's one of the questions I get on a weekly basis. You know, my cell service has gotten worse, and unfortunately, I don't hear anybody talking about getting better. And I think Jonathan and I, we talked about even today in the building here, trying to text one of the inspectors with a form that we needed him to look at, do an inspection. You have to kind of sit there at the window, and we're on the 3rd floor, so I can imagine, you know, so that's one of the things we hope the more towers and more competition will get better service. But again, that's one of the questions that I get constantly, and I'm sure y'all out, you hear, well, how come I can't get service here, or how come I can't get this service, or something like that. So, you know, towers have good locations, but hopefully the co-locations, we could have a tower with, say, a Dish Wireless. We could also have Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, whoever could get on that tower will give competition, and hopefully better services granted through competition.
I can speak for that area, and you probably can too. There is a definite dead zone right there between Pilot and Pinnacle.
Yep.
On 052 where you drop calls all the
And
time.
that's the same location that when we had a two-way radio system, when we were in Pinnacle, you'd be talking and you knew there's a stretch there, you were going dead. But, and I was talking to Jonathan, that we were in the planning board, one of my biggest dead zones is going home is right in the middle of King.
Mountain View Road.
Mountain View Road.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they cannot figure why.
It's about a 15, 20 second
It is.
right there,
It is.
near
Right by
Wellington,
Yep.
right near Wellington, and every time.
I'm getting Ty on the phone. I don't know if, I'm gonna text him, and I'll try Nick too, if you wanna maybe let them do their.
Yeah, they could go
presentation,
ahead
I'll
and-
shoot it and see if he can give me a call back before you all take a vote on it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not voting yet. We can continue the presentation.
Okay, let me see if I can get him to answer me.
Again, one last thing, any motions you make, either in favor or against, please make them with the consideration of the Stokes 2035 comprehensive plan is being consistent or not consistent, and whether it's a reasonable or not a reasonable request when you do your motions, please.
All right.
And Shannon, I forgot to put that statement that you worked hard on.
It's okay.
Actually, I'll run up there and get
It's okay.
it. Y'all go in, and if Jonathan, you're going to ask what his presentation.
Yeah, if y'all want to come on up and do your presentation, that'd be great.
Good evening. My name is Frank Longest. I'm an attorney practicing law in Burleson, North Carolina. Our law firm serves as North Carolina counsel to the applicant. As you know, Jonathan's appeared before you before, and I have also, since this is a public hearing, and since we have North Carolina law being applicable, my purpose is here because of that. Jonathan is a licensed attorney in South Carolina. Jonathan has done hundreds, literally probably thousands of cell phone tower applications in Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. We in the industry kind of call him the cell tower guru. He's very knowledgeable, knows how to put together the cell phone package to make it compliant with your requirements and ordinances. And before I ask him to come up, let me just deviate 1 second. It certainly was a pleasure to come back to God's country tonight. I grew up in the mountain area, Mayberry, and I got to see Saratown Mountain, and I hadn't seen Saratown Mountain in a long, long time. Did my heart good. Jonathan Yates, please.
Thank you so much, Frank. Madam Chair, members of the commission, good to be before you again. I need to do something. David is out of the room, and I think it's best I do it here. What an incredible person. As Frank has outlined to you, I do this work all over the Southeast. what you encounter in Stokes County with David Southern, you don't get anywhere else. Even though I've done this before, I still have to call David all the time. He always takes the call. We talk about stuff together. He never laughs at me when I ask something really stupid. It's better, while he's not here, I want to tell you.
Glad he don't laugh at me when I ask stuff either.
I think I'm telling you something everyone already knows, but you got a heck of a professional, you got a gem, and you got a gentleman in David Southern.
We think
Tonight,
so.
we're talking about a tower. This is on the property of Donna and John Ridge. This Miss Donna, they live over in High Point now, but Miss Donna grew up on the property. She was part of the Jones family. Her family farmed this property for tobacco, and they raised chickens. They've retained this property, and they come to time to time to visit the whole home place. Otherwise, they lease it out. They have a farmer doing corn and beans. And it was exactly, excuse me, it was exactly where Dish needed to be. Now, what's interesting about Dish, as David outlined, they pretty much are going around because they're brand new. They sort of were born out of the merger of T-Mobile and Sprint, where the feds made it very clear they wanted a fourth carrier throughout the country. Thus Dish was born. We've all known about Dish for the satellite TV, but now in the wireless business. And what's interesting, pretty much throughout the Southeast, they're going on existing towers. As David outlined, they're co-located on existing towers. Well, in this case, in this area near Pinnacle, there weren't anything to go on. There was not that existing tower that they could use for their network. So the way this facility is designed, as David told you, it's a monopole. What is a monopole? Monopole is just like a pylon that you'd have in front of a Hardee's or Walmart, but we put communication equipment on it. And in this case, it's designed for Dish, but also the 3 other broadband carriers who are licensed in this market, when and if they're ready to cover that hole. On February 12th, I was out there, met with 2 really nice gentlemen, Lamar Davis, next door neighbor, Mr. Tom Stokes, and they just had some questions, and we spent a good hour together. But it was sort of peaceful for me. Even on a Saturday, sometimes people try to get me. Well, they couldn't get me there. So the purpose of the facility, initially for Dish, designed for 3 others. In addition, as required under the ordinance, space is reserved on the facility if Stokes County, whether you're 911 or whatever, someone needs it. But this property laid out beautifully. We had the 48 acres to work with. Interesting piece of property, and the Southern Railroad line sort of bisects it. So we had to, Dave and I worked together to get the setbacks right, so we were set back not just off the property lines, but off the Southern Railroad line. In addition, not only working with David and his great consultant Jackie Hicks, we had to do a lot of other work. It was reviewed and approved. I am in a high-tech business, but I'm very low-tech, so I don't have a PowerPoint or any of the fancy stuff. I'm a low-tech guy. One of the approvals, this facility was presented to the North Carolina State Historic Preservation Office and approved by Ms. Renee Gladhill Early. What Renee is saying here is it will have no effect on any historic properties. A very important component, I think that's a very important component in Stokes County is proximity, as we talked about last time when we were doing Jeff Lawson's property, proximity to Hanging Rock State Park. We're 16 miles away, so not a factor here. I might have talked about this last time, but I sort of enjoyed doing it. Before I got to do business with David, 6 Native American tribes had to review this thing and clear it through their system. Any Native American tribe or organization that lived in or migrated through Stokes County had to take a look. So this was reviewed by the Prairie Island Indian Community, the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, the Cherokee Nation, the Eastern Shawnee Tribe of Oklahoma, the Shawnee Tribe, and the Catawba Indian Nation.
Wow.
So a lot of work went in, and you see from the size of the book that David and I ended up with in the end, a lot of work went into it. I'm here for any and all questions, but I think in this case, we have a very good site. We have the acreage we need, the 48 acres. We're able to situate it properly, and it meets the network objectives. In addition, it has the space. So when the two phones I'm carrying that didn't work that day, when those two companies want to cover Pinnacle, there will be a space available for them. They can do business with David as a co-location. I'm here for any and all questions. As to the fence, as per the ordinance, we have the tower itself, and then we have the compound where all the ground equipment will go for the individual carriers. And in this case, we will do an 8-foot chain link fence, and we top it with 3 strands of barbed wire as an anti-climbing device. And I will check, to my knowledge, they have not gotten a fencing contractor yet. So, yeah. So I'm hoping there's no conflict, but just to my knowledge, that's one of the last things they do is get someone to come in and put in the fence. I'm here for any and all questions. Again, my thanks to David Sutter for making this while a tricky and complicated process, he has the ability to make it easy, and I thank him.
I got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
The whole 48 acres, is that all owned by Dish or just the part where the tower's going to be?
No, ma'am, we'll just get the tower. The tower area is about 10,000 square
Okay.
feet, and then we have access to Old 52. The remainder of it is still with, and I apologize, about 10 days ago, Mr. Rich had some heart surgery done, so they could not be with us tonight. He was unable to go to the planning commission also. So yeah, we take 10,000 square feet in lease. We have an access road going in, and that's it. So the
Okay.
balance of it will be the part they're leasing out to Farming will continue.
Okay, I didn't know how that worked.
Yeah.
And then, so the co-locating deals from the other companies, they just, that still comes through the planning board even if another it doesn't have to?
After you submit a tower and it's approved, everything comes through me.
Okay, I got you.
David would.
There's no need to go back, because that's what the tower's there for. We can get the
But they do come through your office too,
Yes.
so
We do
you'll,
go through
okay.
our consultant for that. I'll read over the engineering reports and make sure that it complies. Jonathan and I talk about the footing details on the engineering.
Okay.
They have an option, how big, you'd be surprised how big the footing is for communications.
Sink that thing in there.
Okay,
And that's why, Madam Chair, what we do, we have a 60 by 60 compound, tower being in the middle. The reason for that, you have to have the space so they can all fit when and if they're ready. You know, we design it for everyone in the market. When and if they're ready, there's space on the ground too, where they put the equipment inside.
okay,
So if they decide they want it, then they would apply it through David for what we call co-location. And he checks out all their engineering to make sure it all jives.
You have a schedule for it yet, Jonathan, or is that to be determined? When
My
they're gonna
understanding
build
is
it?
Dish is chomping at the bit because they're in the middle of trying to do a bit of a launch in North Carolina. They were able to achieve so much of it through the co-location. This is a little bit of holdup. I'm hoping to have, all the final construction package to David next week. And then once they get a permit, Commissioner Mars, these typically take, 30, 45 days to put in.
Okay.
A lot of it's, you put the foundation in and it has to set. The tower itself will go up in a day. My understanding is Dish is very eager because this was a new tower for them, while everywhere else they'd just been putting equipment
Yeah,
on
okay.
existing towers. So I would think they would be in play, early into the fourth quarter.
Okay,
They've been putting the push on us to get it done.
sounds good. That's all I need to know.
Not much of a question. By the way, I was not advertising, I was just clarifying. When y'all want to put one in Sandy Ridge, about halfway down 770.
How
yeah,
bad is it?
It's bad.
bad.
Once you get to Sandy Ridge, there's nothing to almost 220. And that's a very heavily traveled road. And I've actually been trying for 3 years now to find somebody to put something out there and had no luck.
And there's just nothing.
No.
How long are you down for? About 5 minutes or what do you?
No, it's longer than that. It's probably,
I got messages on my phone out there that I ain't never got
Yeah.
before. Like, I couldn't, it was like, it's nothing.
You bounce off a tire in Virginia?
no.
I used to.
Um,
I don't get
Pretty
anything
much.
up there.
And you know where I'm talking about. Pretty much right there at JJ's, you completely lose it there. You don't get nothing going till you get to about 2 miles away from 220. And I mean, that whole area is just solid dead. And 704 and 770 is very heavily traveled roads.
So when you get back, obviously 220 is covered.
It's covered, yeah.
We've got a 400-foot state patrol tower there at the fire department.
Well, they won't let nobody up on
North
it.
Carolina, and I have asked multiple times, could we not just put a co-location on there? They could get rent for it, but the state.
Yep.
Is one of their Viper towers?
Yes.
Yes, a Viper tower, unless they've changed their policy recently, those have not been made available.
They said they was not gonna let it to any kind of private at all. Matter of fact, I've had 3 conversations with them. Every time the answer was no.
With your permission, Commissioner, I'll get with David tomorrow, see if I can pinpoint that location, and see if I can get some
As
interest.
long as the rest of the board's fine with it, I would love for you to.
Okay.
Maybe Mr. Carroll would want it out there on his
Yeah.
So you're
He's
out, you're out.
He's
for
gonna
a bit.
need it.
Yeah, and it also goes, continuing up 704, back up towards Madison is that big dead area. So, I mean, that whole Sandy Ridge area right there and all the way back up Amistown is completely dead.
Well, from Sandy Ridge all the way over, the whole northern part of the county is kind of in and out dead zones. You might get a signal, you might not.
Right.
And I know terrain has part of it, but there's no carrier there, there's no towers, and they kind of stopped. You're kind of moving north, but Pilot Mountain's above you, but above that, coming into Stokes County, there's nothing.
Yeah, you can't get GPS. Like, it is kind of bad because, you might need your GPS, but it doesn't even work up there.
Well, the thing is, you
On your phone.
get so used to it, using the GPS, that kind of thing. And, with all my traveling, I use that Waze app. And when unfortunately, a lot of times I'm sent to where there is no coverage, where we're trying to get it in. And nothing's more frustrating where I have to remember sort of where I came in to get back to that point where my Waze will pick back up.
Yep.
And it's interesting to bring it up, and I don't mean to prolong it because I know you got better things to do on the evening. We really saw the test of the networks over the past 2 years. Folks were either working from home full-time, trying to educate their children at home, and it really strained the networks, and in reverse showed the value of the networks, how it's become so important. I don't know what these people are doing on the phones all the time. It used to be, I'd go to the airport to fly out of Charleston, and everyone would be there with a newspaper or a magazine or maybe a book reading it. Now everyone in that airport, they're doing something. I don't know what they're doing, but they're staring at this thing. And when you stare at it and it can't do anything for you, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating.
That's true.
I appreciate you taking the initiative to get with them on that as well. I know a lot of citizens would be happy if we could get some coverage up in that area.
I'll see what the story is and see if we can get someone to, and that's what it takes. Usually, it takes that first carrier to solve the problem. And then David talked about competition earlier.
And everybody jumps on afterwards.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, they've solved it.
Yeah.
Now we got to solve it. You got to get that first sort of member of Columbus's sail team to say, okay, I'm willing to discover a new area, see who follows me. Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all.
Appreciate it. Thank
Sure.
you.
Shannon, did you ever hear anything back?
No, I've reached out to everybody there and can't get an answer from them. I don't know, I think if the board discusses it and agrees there's no conflict, I think you're okay, and David can speak to that too as far as that. I guess what would it be, like a subcontractor of yours possibly or something like that you'd be concerned with, that maybe had done something or you didn't know that there's something already in place?
Well, that's what I say, when I seen that right there on there, it's like the solar field, it got perceived as a conflict of interest after the fact, so I don't want that being perceived again, because it had that on there, but.
I got you.
So a consensus from the board, I guess, would be fine.
If everybody's in agreement that it's not a conflict, I don't know,
Madam Chairperson, as a point of procedure before you close the public hearing, I request that the application, all the exhibits, the spiral notebook, be made a part of the record.
Okay.
Thank you.
And as last time, it's in my office.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
It makes a good doorstop.
As to your question, I've had to deal with this in the past about the conflicts and stuff, and I really don't see it. And also talking to the communication companies and the contractors and stuff, even the solar paperwork, I'll have an update on that. They have preferred contractors they use. That's just business, because they're in the business of doing this. And they'll have them in different states and things like that. But, I mean, personally, I see no conflict in what you're being able to vote on this proposal, because it's important that we spread communications around.
Right.
Yep, very important. All right, so we've had our discussion, and now I need to ask for a motion, or do I need to close the public hearing first, Shannon?
We can take action on
It's
it.
out.
That's it from here.
Okay. Thank you.
I agree with Shannon. If we can standardize this, it'll make it easier on everybody.
David, are you ready for them to be completed as far as go to action? Is everything completed with the public hearing?
Yes, if you don't have any other questions.
You can close that.
All right, well, then we'll close that part of the public hearing, and if somebody's ready to make a motion,
Everybody have a consensus on the board that there was not a conflict?
yeah, that's our consensus.
I can make that motion if you want me to.
Okay.
Do you want to ask Commissioner Mintoff to hear you?
Can you hear me, Ronnie?
I can.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the rezone request 22-471 submitted by Dish Wireless. Where's the rest of the company name at? And Diamond Communications LLC to rezone 48 acres. Is that correct, David?
No.
No? How many acres?
Just your point two is, it's a leasehold area. They don't actually get the property, it's just a lease of it. It's actually 0.229 acres, 10,000 square foot.
0.2.
All right, to rezone 0.229 acres from zoning district, that'd be the RA to RACZ for the tower use. The request is consistent with the Stokes 2035 plan and is a reasonable request.
All right, we have a motion, second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right. Is there any other business before we adjourn?
Just need to give you a couple of updates.
All right.
That'll be it.
That's good. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, have a good trip back. Just very quick updates. You're still on the solar farm moratorium, and that's due in August 23rd of this year. That we need to do something. The planning board's been working on this the past few months. Had lots of discussion about it, and so we got some stuff coming from you. We're going to have another work session to try to narrow it down. I have got calls into the School of Government trying to find out the status of the decommissioning plan that the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, they said they were going to come up with this, environmental management was going to come up with this statewide decommissioning plan. And haven't
Thank
seen
you.
anything.
Y'all
I
be
saw
safe.
the last thing, it was supposed to be in effect in 2022. What we got was a publication in March of 2022 just showing outlines of things. So one of my questions is to find out if we actually have a decommissioning plan available, so if we adopt some things, regulations and stuff, we can fall back on that. And also perhaps ask if that's a reason that you might want to extend it a little bit further until we actually get that decommissioning plan. So I've contacted Adam Lovelady, an attorney at the School of Government, and have not got a response back. But sometimes it takes, as Amber and I were talking, they're not always just back the next hour on it. So I'll keep on that. And we're just doing some updates, so be trying to put some things in that we're finding is the community, things are changing, trying to keep abreast of what's going on, and may make some text amendments to for in front of y'all to see if we can make things a little better for things like we were talking about campers and things, while people are constructing to actually make it part of the ordinance, and a few other items that have been brought up in the last year or so that the planning board has discussed. Other than that, I just wanted to update you on that and let you know that we're still working on that and should have you something hopefully proposed unless I get some other information. I have talked to Ty about some things on that, regulations, but you would see something and then if the planning board take a look at it and then y'all can decide what you want to do.
Sounds good.
Got one follow-up question on something we talked about Duke Power. I had somebody mention to me, and there's some talk out there about, Duke Power getting away from the coal and going towards, natural gas or whatever. I mean, there's no plans for them to completely shut down Blues Creek, right? It's just switching over.
Well, I don't know that it would actually tell me, but based on what I know,
Right.
They're using, a portion of the generation now is through natural gas.
Right.
And, I talk to Jimmy fairly regular, Jimmy Flight. And
Right.
as far as I know, they're up and running. I don't know how they would replace the grid power with that. That's a tremendous.
I think it was just maybe somebody that talked about the coal going away, thinking the whole plant was going away. And I told the person that was talking to me about it, I was like, that's not our understanding. It's just they're switching from coal to natural gas to power to produce the power, but it's not going away.
As much construction as they keep going over there, I could not imagine. I mean, they will do some conversions. I mean, that's just part of the
Right.
evolution of generating power, but,
I'm trying to think who was talking to me about it, but it was during one of the discussions of the Pine Hall School closing or not closing and the area, and so it was something like that. So see you. All right, that's fine. But anyway, I didn't think that was the case, but
They'd already converted half of it to natural gas.
They have one generator. To my knowledge, it works off of that. And then it was pretty interesting how they're talking about how they use it. It's not just half and half. It's the availability, demand, and things, how they use the power. Jimmy can definitely give you an update on that if you'd like to ask him. But no, I mean,
well, sometime if he would like to come and just give us an update so that we kind of know what's going on and what the plan is, as much as they could tell us, and it informs the public so they have an idea of what's going on, especially if there's some misunderstanding about whether they're leaving.
You ever toured it?
No, I have not.
They do that. They do tours. They're probably good to go out there if you haven't been.
Yeah, that'd be something I'd be interested
it's
in.
real interested in. But
Trying to set that up.
I get a newsletter talking about his community. Do you get the community leader newsletter from them?
I get emails from them a lot.
Usually
Yeah.
that tells you kind of things that are going on. It's statewide, but, they're dealing with coal ash, and that's an ongoing issue and all. But from every indication I get, they're stronger now, but I mean, that plan is an integral part
That's
of generating power in North Carolina, and I don't see that changing.
Gotcha. I was just making sure I was clear on that. I don't think we have anything else. Thank you. You need to go back and watch this meeting because they were bragging on you when you were out of the room. I think he purposely waited for you.
I don't watch the meetings, but there's been many times where they're not bragging on me, so call it even.
Well, thank you. We do appreciate the job you do and for always being thorough and being very professional. We appreciate it. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. See you, Mr. Mendenhall.
See y'all later.
You're feeling better.